Hello, this is Dr. Daryl Green. This is MGMT 4903. This is our policy and strategy class. This is our finale. Our final presentations. Our students have been going through a rigorous simulation called Capstone, and we are here to hear the results. They have been working hard. Just want to also mention. We just got through dealing with a tornado damage, and we want to thank the resilience of the community and the students for making this happen. And so, if some people are not dressed business professional, it's because we're doing the grind. So, what we want to do right now is that we want to introduce our reviewers, our professional reviewers from the country. So, briefly tell us your name and where you're located and who you're representing. And we're gonna start with Ms. Cusick. If she would introduce herself.
Good morning, everybody. This is Leslie Cusick. I work for Restoration Services NTech in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And I think this is the third year I've supported Dr. Green on this, and I've really enjoyed it. I can see the amazing skills that your students have. I'm thrilled to be able to help you.
Okay, welcome to virtual Bison Hill. Okay, Dr. Cragen.
Yeah, hi guys. Some of you know me. I'm a former professor still teaching the MBA program. I am currently in the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot in Maryland.
Oh. Could you give me a twister donut, Dr. Cragen? Oh, okay, never mind. He didn't hear that. And we have Dr. Rutherford.
Hi, guys. I'm representing the northeast corner of the Bailey Business Center.
Is it still there, Dr. Rutherford?
Last time I was there last week, it was there.
Okay, good deal. All right, so we're not going to forego that. We have six teams that competed. Plus, we had an individual student that did we call it a foot race. And I'm going to make sure, are there any other reviewers that are out there? Okay. If not, our presenter for the day is Mr. Jacob Moore. Mr. Jacob Moore, you're on. And I will be tabbing your presentation.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, can everybody see my screen okay?
We can, you good.
Okay. Like Dr. Green said, I was one of the ones that did the foot race, the individual cap sim. My team was Andrews, but I got to name it, so I named it Blue Carolina. So today I'll be going over my introduction, the cap sim overview, my round decisions and summary, and then I'll go over some results and then my recommendations. So to start, we're in charge of CapSim. We're in charge of a company that specializes in selling electronic sensors. There are multiple teams. My team was Andrews. There was Baldwin, Chester, Digby, Erie, and Ferris. Those are all by computer teams. Since it was in the foot race, I didn't compete against actual individuals. And there were 8 rounds. Each round was technically a year. And so the decisions were made every year. And then we had to make decisions based on the research and development, marketing, production, human resources, finance, and then total quality management, which came on later on at the end. So for the first 1 to 4 years, the CapSim Courier and the Ideal Maps, that was really one of my biggest tools that I used. In the first year, I started off pretty well. I was kind of still trying to figure it out, but I was able to maintain a bunch of the market share. So that helped me out a lot. I issued some bonds in the first year just to kind of get some more cash flow going. And then in year 2, I kind of started to see a little decrease in my revenue. So I wanted to retire a little bit of stock to help me out later on down the line. But I still had majority of the market share, so that was a good thing. In year 3, that was when things became a little difficult for me. I lost majority of the market share. I didn't really realize why at the time, but looking back on it, it was because the other companies, they were adding more products and taking away some products. And so I was mass producing. And so I began to oversell my product, and it took away from my profit at the end. And so because of that, in year 4, I increased my automation and capacity within my production. And so that actually helped me out tremendously because I was able to figure out the right amount to sell. And so that actually helped me utilize the most successful year in sales. For year 5, there was an increase in production, like I said, after year 4. And so I got my market share back up to about 18%. But Big Al paid me a visit, and I had a lot of money in debt. I had 11 million in debt. So I issued some bonds to try to get rid of that. And I also noticed that there were some companies that had multiple products in one market. And so they were taking over that market pretty quickly. And so in year 6, I added a new market to try to do the same thing. And I added that product's name was Alex, and I added that to the high end. And that actually helped out tremendously. As you can see to your right here, my market share was about fairly even with the rest of them. And that actually helped me take over the high end market later on down the line. If you look up to the top of the screen, you can kind of see there was a decrease with years, or between rounds 5 and 6. I kind of was still trying to figure things out. But after that new product, I got it back up to 75. So that was pretty good. So year 7, I was 3rd in total sales and 4th in total profit, which was about 7 million. And then I erased that loan that Big Al had gave me. And so in year 8, I actually ended with a positive balance of 11 million, and I had no debt. And so I was very proud of that, to be able to say that I paid off Big Al and continued to do well in the simulation. So if you look at the screen here, this is kind of where I started on the left right here. Not too great, but it wasn't too much because everybody else was kind of in the same boat. My leverage was about 2.3, which is second. It's they wanted it about 2.0, 2.2, which was, so it's fairly close. And like I said at the beginning, my market share was 19%, which was first at the time. And my sales was right here, it's 136 million, which is first at the time as well. But my profit was only 36 million because I was overproducing. So I was losing a lot of money in that. And so when I finished, that leverage was about 2.0. It's really where you want to be. My cumulative profit was 41 million, which was 6th. Like I said, I kind of lost a lot in those rounds 4 through 6. And then my market share, as you can see here, it was 15.8%, which was 3rd at the time. Digby really took over. They had 21%. But I was pretty happy with that, considering how far I had dropped down. And then my sales right here was 158 million as well. So that was 3rd. So I was pretty happy with that. So for my takeaways, I feel like I was very conservative throughout the simulation. And I feel like that kind of put me at a disadvantage because I wasn't taking advantage of the aggressive market. As playing against computers, they're pretty aggressive. And so they took advantage of my conservative approach and utilized the aggressive approach. Another thing I'll say is I should utilize stock more. I didn't really do that at the beginning. I issued a little bit kind of to play with it. It wasn't enough to actually see any adjustments. And so I would say for people doing the simulation in the future to utilize stock more often. And then utilize the ideal spots in Courier. You can find those on the online guide. They gave me what I needed for a formula for the sales forecast that helped me out tremendously because I wasn't overproducing or underproducing. It was kind of right in the middle. But that also hurt me because I was being conservative. I didn't produce enough at the beginning. And so that really made it kind of tough for me. I say have an organized strategy because you can have a specific goal in mind, but you have to be able to adjust at the same time. And so when you're organized with your strategy, it really helps you be more flexible in your decisions. And so in conclusion, I want to say thank you to my mentor, Miles Russell. He really helped me when I was struggling through this process. But it was a fun experience, and I'm grateful for it. So I want to thank Dr. Green and OBU for giving me this opportunity to do this incredible simulation. So now I'm open to questions.
Thank you so much. Your presentation was 7 minutes and 9 seconds, a little bit over. We're gonna start with our reviewers. Again, reviewers, if you could keep your questions or comments to 15, 30 seconds and respond. We're looking at the 30 seconds. This is what we call rapid fire in virtual world. So we're gonna go with Cragen, Cusick, and Rudebach in evaluating your presentations.
Okay, Jacob, assuming you can hear me, and I know we're flashing in and out, so you might not, but you had to handle all 4 major structural positions by yourself. What do you think would be the difference if you had teammates?
I feel like having a team to kind of talk through the decisions would help me out a lot. And I'm kind of not very familiar with stocks, and so that hurt me a lot too. And so having a teammate would have helped with that too.
Thank you, Cusick.
I thought that was very well done. And I thought that your analysis of your competitors' activities was very useful to you because you were both anticipating and responding to what they were doing. And your recovery in year 4 was very impressive. So
Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. Rudebach.
Jacob, it's very impressive what you did by yourself. Help me understand who you competed against. Was it just the computer?
Yes, sir. There was like automated, I think they were automated teams. And so they made decisions at the same time, but they obviously were more familiar with the simulation.
And how many different teams were there? Do you know?
Including myself, there were 8. Yes, sir.
Okay. Wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. So what we do right now, we want to utilize, since we're on a virtual platform, we want to thank Jacob for his presentation. If you look down on the reactions, give us a reaction. We want to thank it right now. Give us a reaction for his presentation. Okay, good. All right, you guys play good, great job. And now we will have our 6 teams. So Jacob had to do a foot race against animated, or they weren't artificial intelligence, but they were animated. They had some sort of programs. But the hardest thing is going with live individuals because we're so unpredictable. We had 6 teams, and again, they'll tell you this simulation is utilized by Penn State and other top tier institutions. Last year, we had a team that was in the top 1%, which is very difficult. And so you're going to be witnessing their journey. We have 6 teams. The order is going to go. We go by the last place finish versus the first place finish. But in my book, they were all winners. So now we're going to start with the first presenters. Team 6. Team 6, you're up.
Okay, let me share my screen real quick. Can everyone see it just fine? Hold one second. Okay.
Good.
So we were Team 6 Ferris, and here's our story of how the simulation went. I'm going to kick it off to David. To Graham to start us off with the agenda. We got the agenda going, and then David's going to kick us off with the simulation intro. Not David, sorry, Graham, sorry.
Yeah, so I'm going to run over kind of the simulation intro, kind of what this CapSim simulation was. It was a competition between 6 teams. All these businesses are a matrix business model with different branches, 7 departments in every company. It started with 3 practice rounds and then 8 live rounds in which all the companies are competing against each other, trying to maintain their market share and increase their sales. The simulation is challenging because the market changes every single round. So there's an emphasis on being flexible and adapting to kind of where the market goes. And the overall goal of the simulation is just to get experience working with different branches, put yourself in a real world situation working for a corporate company and just making decisions to grow the business. So I'm going to pass it off to Maddie.
I'm going to be covering the company overview, and our motto was one team, one dream. On the left, we have Elijah. He acted as our team president and the head of production. Then we have Graham, who acted as the vice president of human resources in TQM. And then we have David, who is the vice president of finance. And we have Macy, who is the vice president of research and development. And then we have myself, who is the vice president of marketing. I'm going to pass it off to Elijah.
Okay, so I want to talk about our management strategy in the simulation. Rounds 1 through 3, we wanted to be very competitive with our price ranges. We set our prices around the same prices that everyone else was to kind of be competitive in the market. But then rounds 4 and 7, we kind of seen decline in our profits and things like that. So we needed to, rounds 4 and 7 was all about getting ourselves out of that hole. And so by doing this, we want to lessen the debt by cutting production costs, which helped us out a bit. You'll see in our results. We wanted to pursue a low-cost strategy and invest in TQM, which benefited us greatly in our results. And then I'm going to pass it off to Macy and David to tell us our results.
Good morning. I am going to talk about our just some of our highlights and our shortcomings of this simulation. So I'm going to start with the highlights. Our first one is we consistently had a low employee turnover rate, as you can see highlighted in the box. We did this well throughout the whole simulation. This can be attributed to our HR management. And then from rounds 5 through 8, we did have a pattern of improvement, even though we did finish in last. This can be attributed to the implementation of the market forecasting that we started in round 5. And then our final highlight is our number of logins on the simulation from our team collectively. It's also highlighted. Even though we did not do great in the simulation overall, we never gave up and never stopped participating. This is something that I am proud of our team. And then I'm going to go over our 2 shortcomings really quick. So some of our shortcomings were that we failed to consistently target specific market segments. Part of this can be attributed to some technical difficulties that we had at the beginning as we tried to figure out the simulation. And by the time we did figure it out, it was too late. And then also we did have a low market share for each market segment because of this inconsistency and targeting. And then as mentioned before, we started accurately forecasting our market sales in round 5, and that helped in our increasing point totals for each round. However, we did start doing this too late. And then I'm going to pass it off to David, and he's going to talk about some of the financial results that we had.
Thank you, Macy. Yeah, again, so the really the whole message of our team is improvement. And I think the biggest indicator of that is, as you can see, in rounds 6 through 8, our sales really exponentially increased. I mean, they more than doubled between rounds 7 and 8. So I think that was a really big testament, again, back to the accurate forecasting. Our net income down at the bottom, which I think it got cut off, but our net income was a bit lower. And that's, again, just because of our, we did have to pay off some debts, the interest on the short-term debt and on the long-term debt. But I think given that our sales were finally starting to increase, and I'm saying probably 3 to 4 rounds, we're going to start to see some positive net profits. And then something else I just wanted to share was our market share, again, showing our improvement. Round 5, I mean, you can see that Erie really dominated. All the other teams did pretty well. We only had a 2.49% market share. By the end of the round 8, we are up to 12.61. Again, testament just that we remained perseverant and saw improvements towards the end.
Yeah, so I'm going to start us off with our lessons learned. One of the lessons I learned was communication is key. We could kind of see a pattern that the better that we were communicating, making decisions together, that those ended up being some of the better rounds we had.
And as well as some things I learned was to seek advice from experts. We didn't have all the answers. So sometimes we had to call the actual CAPSISM simulation. Sometimes we had to look up some YouTube videos. So just seeking advice from experts in the simulation.
My lesson learned is that trial and error can be helpful. However, if you figure out what works too late, then you're not going to win.
My lesson learned, again, this has been repeated throughout our presentation, but just the importance of accurate forecasting and doing that early in the simulation.
And my lesson learned is adhering to a pricing strategy. And just like Macy said, the trial and error may work, but if it's too late, then it won't work.
So in conclusion, we didn't do as well as we hoped, but that does not mean the end. A lot of companies have started in debt and have gone in debt and bounced back. A couple you can see, Apple, they were 150 million in debt, Six Flags, 2.7 billion in debt, General Motors, 172.8 billion in debt. And all these companies have bounced back and are better than ever. So with that being said, we're up to take any questions.
Thank you so much. Your presentation was 7 minutes and 12 seconds, which is in the good time frame. If you unshare your screen, we will have Cusick, Rudebach, and Cragen provide critique.
I would say, number one, you were all very well spoken. And you mentioned that one of the ladies mentioned that you never gave up and you kept participating. That's a very honest assessment of the situation. And as there's an author, G.K. Chesterton, who said, things worth doing are worth doing badly. Never give up. If you believe in something, you've got to fight for it. And be honest in your assessment of when other people help you. And one of you mentioned asking for the advice of experts. Absolutely. There's great value in being humble and vulnerable. So.
Okay. Good feedback. Okay, Rudebach.
Very nice job, guys. I appreciate your work and your growth over the years. I have a question for Macy with regards to the low employee turnover that you talked about, and you accredited that to the HR department. Can you give us some examples of what you guys did to have low employee turnover?
I actually was not in charge of the HR department, but Graham might be able to answer that better.
Yeah, I can speak to that.
Thank you.
As far as HR, we kind of gave the max amount of what was recommended salary and spent a lot of time in our training program. So the employees were getting a lot of hours, which kept them happy. So we just maintained that every single round. So that way there was a low turnover rate.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Cragen. Yeah, good.
I'm trying. There we go. Guys, I'm sure this jumped out to you. One thing that has to change is that gross profit margins were ridiculously low. You can't win in this real life or in this competition with gross profit margins in the 20% range when everybody else has got their gross profit margin in the 35 to 40% range. So number one, you're going to have to figure out some way to deal with that issue, not only in the sim, but in life.
Okay. Response? Any response from Team 6 on that statement or comment?
Yes, we felt like in the later years, we were kind of trying to grow our gross margins because we did a lot of things like we were trying to up our sales. We were trying to capture more of the market share. And so we just think if we had a couple more years, like you said, a lot of companies have bounced back from being bankrupt. So I feel like our gross margin would have grown to give us, per se, 3-5 more years. It would have been way much higher.
Good deal. So that was team 6, which is also known as Team Fears, finished in the sixth place, but never gave up. Let's give them a virtual applause. If you look down on the reactions, appreciate what they did. Next up is our 5th place position. That is team 3. Team 3, Team Chester, you're up.
All right, awesome. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, you're good.
Awesome. So I'm Cade Self. I'm with Team Chester. These are my teammates. It was Andrew Gardner, Jared North, Lauren Holly, and Micah Chapman. So here are our teammates and our roles. Andrew Gardner was our president. Jared North was our VP of Finance. Micah Chapman was our VP of R&D. And I myself was the VP of Marketing. And Lauren Holly was the VP of Production. So here's the agenda of what we're going to go over in our presentation today. We're going to cover a company overview and take a look at some strategies we put in place that don't involve our management. We'll talk about our management strategy as well. We'll talk about our results from the simulation. Each of us will take a turn giving the lessons that we learned during the simulation, and then we'll wrap it up. And now I'd like to pass it on to Jared North for the company overview.
All right. Hi, guys. I'm Andrew Gardner, our president. I'll be giving our company overview. Our team motto was Better with Chester, and that really led into the beginning of our strategy, where we planned to give a broad differentiation by understanding customer wants and needs, by really focusing on where all of our products fell on the perceptual map. And you see that we planned to invest in automation, but our results were actually poor forecasting and low margins. So on our next slide, once we ended up with our low margins due to our poor forecasting, we tried to shift our strategies towards a cost leadership strategy, where we were focusing on increasing our sales by lowering our price to be more competitive with the other teams, because we couldn't afford the kinds of investments that our broad differentiation strategy required. Some highlights that we had overall, we had 5 out of 5 customer buying criteria every round. So ultimately, our strategy of focusing on where our products fell on the perceptual map, we nailed every time by really systematically organizing the way that we did our research and development. Next, Jared will be giving you our results.
Yes, good morning. As we see, I have placed a snapshot of the balanced scorecard on this slide. As you see, rounds 1 through 4, we had a good lead. We were in second place. Our current debt was low, but as you see in round 5 on our balanced scorecard, we kind of took a dip, and that is in correlation with our current debt that I've also circled in $280,773 in current debt. This is because during that time, the simulation went into recession, and we did not notice this at this time. And because of this, we suffered a loss and took out a lot of emergency loans because of that. So to pivot, we will pivot to Micah for more results.
Yeah, so although we missed the forecast in the recession, we did have some good highlights during the simulation. One of those being our high market share. Of the 8 rounds of the simulation, for 6 of those rounds, we were the top 2 in market share. As Andrew discussed earlier, we met the customer buying criteria every single round, so we really learned what they liked in our products. And then we also had a very low employee turnover rate, which can be attributed to our investment in our training hours with our employees and also just training spending. And with that, we're going to go through each of the lessons that we learned, starting with Andrew.
Okay. I learned a lesson on how to delegate leadership. As the team president, that was something that I grew a lot in.
One thing that I learned is that although we may have high sales in the simulation, that doesn't necessarily equate to profit, and really having to focus on how to make those margins high with high sales as well.
I learned that it's important to analyze the market carefully, because the recession hit us pretty hard, and it caused our team to have some issues, and it kind of caused us to fall back.
I learned about how important pricing was to a lot of other factors within the company, factors that I didn't even know it would affect.
And I learned, especially for the professional career, that financial decisions are crucial, especially within the early decision-making process.
So I am going to end it off with the conclusion. We believe that given more time, we would have recovered from our debt and negative cumulative profit. We think that this would have taken about 4 years. Our biggest growth point would be choosing a single successful strategy. As Andrew mentioned, we changed it about the middle of the round. We wish we would have just stuck with one and gone with it. And our company went through highs and lows in different stages, but resulted in many lessons on leadership and business management. So at this time, we will be open to any questions.
Thank you so much. That was Team Chester. Team Chester, 5 minutes and 58 seconds. Great job on your time management. And we're gonna go with Ruderbach, Cragen, and Cusick.
I don't have a question. I have a comment. Jared, that slide that you did, that was the best one. It was the easiest one to read so far today. It did not have too much information on it, and the font was big enough, or the type size was big enough. It was easy to read. So thanks for doing that for us old guys. That makes that easier to read. Thanks.
Cragen. Dr. Cragen, you're up.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I faded out a little bit here in the parking lot. I thought the visuals were outstanding in the presentation. I think it was a little weak in terms of explaining the details. I would have liked to see the numbers, and as most board members would. But I wanted to point out that while schools like Penn State are using this, you might want to know that this is a training tool that's being used in corporations as well. So what you're learning this should stand you good stead in your career, not just from things you got right, but from the things you learned from what you got wrong.
Great point. Any comments on the team? We'll move on. Okay, good observation, Dr. Cragen. Cusick.
One of the comments made at the end was the choice of a single successful strategy. And my question has to do with how frequently did you sort of look in the rearview mirror and say, I wish we would have stuck with X? Was that something you did as a matter of schedule, or is that something you reached a conclusion at the end?
That was a conclusion that we reached at the end of round 8. Once we came through our results and analyzed them, we realized that that change that we made after round 5 was ultimately a mistake.
Good deal. Excellent. Any other comments from that? Okay. So this was our third presentation. It was our fifth position. Let's give it up for Team Chester. Virtually, let's give it a reaction. Come on now, let's try. Pick something. Okay. Next up is Team Baldwin. Team Baldwin, you're up.
Does everybody want to do a mic check real quick? Make sure our mics are all working. Can you hear me? Perfect. Look at that.
All right. Good morning. I'm Jacob Knudsen with Team Baldwin. So real briefly, we'll go through our agenda. So I will be going over the introduction and company overview, and then Nick will go over our summary. Jackson will be going over our management strategy. Trevor will go over our results, and then Ariel will conclude us talking about our lessons learned. So meet the team. Our motto was winning is in our name. I was president and also vice president of production. Then we have Jackson Job, who is vice president of research and development. Ariel Cortucio was Vice President of Human Resources, and Trevor Evans was Vice President of Marketing, and then Nick Boone was Vice President of Finances. Our company mission was to provide high quality products that exceed customer expectations while fostering an environment of innovation, integrity, and teamwork.
Okay, and I'm Nick Boone. Jacob said, I'm the VP of Finance. And right here, I'm going to be going over a summary of our balanced scorecard. And so right here, you can see compared to the other 6 teams we competed against, Team Baldwin, we started off very strong. We were in first place in round 1 and followed again with a strong round 2 and 3. And then starting round 4, you see a decrease, 5 and 6. We're steady. And then we finished 4th overall. And then if you go to the next slide, here's a summary of our analysis report card. I don't have all the rounds on there, I just have rounds 1, 3, 5, and 7. But as you can see, the full circles show where we were strong at. And you can see we were strong, we were very financially structured in the early rounds. And we did not take out any emergency loans until round 6. I think we really struggled with our margins and our profit. And as you can see, we also struggled with market share. And in round 7 and 8, we really struggled with those things. So now I'm going to give it over to Jackson.
Hi, I'm Jackson. I'm going to be going over our management strategy. So our primary strategy was a blue ocean strategy. And we wanted to provide an easily accessible product to everyone while remaining highly competitive in all areas of the market, meeting consumer demands. So we came up with 3 objectives, and our first objective was to dominate market share. And wanted to implement a generous yet practical sales and promotional budget. We want to introduce products into every market, and we want to produce high quality, higher interest products better than our competitors. Our objective 2 was competitive accessibility and awareness. We want to increase marketing and our sales promotion budget. We want to increase competitive pricing, and our objective 3 was to maximize profit. We wanted to reduce costs and exercise efficiency in every dollar spent, and increase prices by higher quality products. And now Trevor is going to go over the results.
Thank you, Jackson. I'm going to talk about some of our highlights before we get to the results. Of course, we were in 8 years in operation, 1 week equaling 1 simulation year. So, you know, lot of work under our belts, and we persevered and we got through it. On top of that, we had 7 sensors in production, starting with only 5 sensors in production. Originally, we added 2 more in rounds, I believe, 4 and 6. Adding 2 or 1 more sensor for the high end and then the size market segment. On top of that, we had a $62 million net loss. Let's just face the facts, that is not very impressive. I will say out of 3 teams with a net loss, we had the lowest, as you can tell by our 4th place spot. But that is not to say that we didn't try. We had over 250 logins. I mean, that's over 32 logins per week. We were working hard, and our president was delegating and making sure things were going smoothly. We just couldn't find a groove and stay in it, but there was not a lack of effort. So next, I'll kind of talk about some of our results. As you can see, we had a 16.43% market share. Our segment of that pie up there on the right is accurate to size. As you can tell, it was a very competitive market. You know, we had the 5th lowest market share, but you can barely tell the difference in size without numbers in that chart. So it was very competitive. 41%, that was our national percentile. We would have ranked in the 41st percentile in the national level. Still not incredibly impressive, but considering all things considered, I'm kind of proud of our team, and we did the best we could. Also, our contribution margin was, that was kind of our high point. It was very impressive. The industry average, or not average, but industry benchmark is 30%. So being almost 15 points above that benchmark was impressive for our team. So next I'm going to give it to Ariel. She's going to discuss kind of our conclusion, our lessons learned.
Thank you, Trevor. So overall, with our lessons learned, Jacob was able to understand that communication is vital with working on team projects. Jackson was always able to understand that customers are our first priority. And Trevor and Nick and I also were able to learn that teamwork is the only way that we were able to do so well in our simulation. So in conclusion, even though we did not win the overall simulation, we were able to learn valuable skills that we are able to take into our future careers. And with that, thank you. We are now open for questions.
Thank you, Team Baldwin. Your presentation time was 6 minutes and 19 seconds, which is in the time frame. Our reviewer order was going to now be Cragen, Cusick, and Rudebach.
Yeah, I agree. A good presentation, and appreciated the data. It's hard to have a false market. So tell them today, primarily out of line with your pricing. But I also noticed you had 7 different products, 6 of which were in the upper ends of the market. And those are tough. You want to explain that a little bit?
Yes, so we found that we were competing very well in the high-end market. And so our first product that we introduced, our new product, was into the high end to further our competitive advantage to take over more of the market share for that segment.
Okay. Thank you. Next up is Cusick.
I had a question regarding, do you consider that your goals were too diverse? And the reason I asked that is because I noticed a lot of superlatives in that your desire to do everything, all things, expand, maximize. That's very desirable, but in retrospect, was it truly attainable?
I think that you're right. You're exactly right. We were kind of definitely very eager to just get out there and do the best we could in any market, you know, and I think we were trying to please too many segments at once and didn't focus on a target market. Looking back now, like you said, that's definitely a very obvious pattern. And like you said, had we chosen maybe a specific segment and gained market share and, you know, like maybe the high and the size segment, like Cragen pointed out, which are hard to compete in, but we were doing well. If we had focused more on that, I think we would have been a little more successful. So that was a good observation.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And
good answer.
Thank you. Rudebach.
So on your management strategy, you talked about 3 different objectives. I'm curious as to which one of those 3 you felt like you succeeded in the best.
Probably maximizing our market share, because as you can see, when Trevor showed like the little pie chart, you couldn't even tell if there wasn't any numbers on it, the difference.
Yeah, it was a very competitive market, for sure. Like I said, 5th lowest market share, but it was, you know, I think the highest market share maybe would have, ours was about 17%. The highest market share was, I believe, anywhere from 22 to 23. So it was pretty competitive.
Great. Great job by Team Baldwin. Let's give them a virtual reaction, if you don't mind. Okay. So our next up is our next 3 teams, the top teams. Again, all teams competed. And we're going to start with 3rd place, Team Digsby, Team 4. Team 4, you're up.
All right, yeah, so we are Team 4. My name is Allison Lott. I was a member of Team Digby, and we are just going to go over our CapSim company results. So as you can see, this is our team from left to right. We have Thomas, who is in charge of finance, Josh, who is in charge of R&D, and then our president, James, who just kind of pitched in wherever help was needed, and then Parker, who was in charge of production, and then myself, who was in charge of marketing. So our agenda for the presentation, we're just going to go a little overview, highlight our market success, and then key in on our forecasting, and then talk about financial performance, and then lastly, our lessons learned. And Parker is going to take it on from here.
Thank you, Allison. So as you can see, round one, we ranked in the second percentile, which is really bad. We got last in the class for that round. But then, as you see, we gradually improved every round to where round 8 we were in the 86th percentile and we won that round for our class. So now I will pass it on to Tom. No, not Thomas. Josh.
Thank you, Parker. So, yep, I want to highlight some of our market success, and this was kind of one of our key elements we did succeed in. We knew from the beginning that capturing market share was one of our priorities. And so as you can see on the right in this graph, we had success with that. We continuously grew. That shows our sales increasing, and that shows that we just had a real steady growth in sales. Did have that one setback with the recession that Thomas will kind of get to next. But at the end, we ended up with the second highest market share. And one of the big things that we want to point out is that we were one of the, I believe we were the only team, if not definitely the only in the top teams, that actually never introduced a new product. We considered every round, we looked at our financial position and just decided that we wanted to focus on making our existing products the absolute best. And we worked hard for that. And we ended up with, again, the second highest market share without ever even introducing new products. So we really enjoyed that. And I want to pass on to James.
Yeah, and so I was going to speak a little bit to our forecasting method. As you can see here, it's just a really simple Excel chart, and then I have a photo of the Capstone Courier where we get all the data as well. In the initial rounds, we didn't forecast well. We were overproducing, and we were spending too much on promoting products because we didn't know what our market share was going to be, and we didn't know which products to focus on. And so we came with this method where we would predict the next total round market share, how many products would be purchased in the entire market, and then what did we earn last round? And then we assumed we would earn that much and a little more, assuming we would improve. And sadly, we figured that out in round 2 or 3 after we had made our initial mistakes. As you can see, we're like the second percentile in round 1, which is just not good enough. And so gradually, after we kind of made these improvements, we started, really ramping up through the entire simulation. And so I think Tom is going to speak a little bit to our financial performance.
Yeah, so going off of what Joshua and James were saying, for our results and financial performance throughout the entire simulation, as you see over to the graphic over to our left, that shows our net income throughout the rounds. So first couple rounds, we put ourselves in a little hole, starting off with negative profit. But as you see, we had a staggered performance going forward. We were able to increase our profit each round, except for round 5 and round 6, as we enter a recession in round 5, as you can see right there at round 6, where we had that little dip. But down below, the graphic down below, it shows our financial performance a little bit more in depth. What really hurt us was our emergency loan and our operating profit. As you can see, our emergency loan, we took out 0 emergency loans, which kind of helped, but it also hurt us in the long run, because that recession, we really could have used an emergency loan in that case, where it would have helped us financially. And then our operating profit just shows investors how detailed we are inside our business and what we're doing to do that. And next, I'll go and talk about our lessons learned. The biggest lesson that I learned and took away from this was communication must be effective to have an effective team and an efficient team.
Yeah, and so I just learned how to adjust throughout the simulation. The market was changing every round, so just learning how to make those adjustments.
Yeah, so I learned how to keep working efficiently even after we fail or go through a rough patch.
I definitely learned that, again, we had good ideas of what we wanted to do, how we thought it was going to go, but I need to learn to respect the competition. They're going to make some good moves too, and that can really impact you.
Yeah, and mine was to ease our strategy into effect, which really leads into our conclusion as well. We call it the pride, the fall, and the redemption. We did great in the practice rounds, and we were too arrogant with our strategy. We came in and we swung for the fences round one instead of easing in, as I had said with my lesson learned. And so that caused immediate failure because all these other teams, like Josh said, had caught on to what we had done in the practice rounds and had learned, and we didn't respect that enough. And sadly, because of that initial performance, we were climbing out of that hole for many, many rounds until you finally see our percentage increase in the final 2 rounds, where we believe we would have been if we had not done so poor initially. So with that, we're open to questions and any other statements you guys might have.
Okay, thank you, Team Digsby. If you unshare your screen for us. Your presentation was 6 minutes and 7 seconds, which is on par. We are going to go with Cusick, Rudebach, and Cragen for feedback.
I'll give you a little bit of editorial feedback. On slide 7, you had a spelling error. You definitely don't want to do that. And on slide 8, your fonts were inconsistent. And depending upon how people are looking at you performance-wise, they may doubt kind of the quality of what you're saying because your materials were not the best.
Good comments. Good comments for Team Digsby. Rudebach?
So you talked about how you did not introduce any new products from when you started. So my question is, in hindsight, should you have introduced some different products?
I can speak to that. I definitely think there could have been some advantages with it. And admittedly, though, I don't know if we fully would have been able to take advantage of it because we were able to capture such a competitive market share without it. We were able to spend so much more on kind of other areas and stuff, which again, because of our starting position, spending more on other areas just kind of helped us catch up, unfortunately, since we were down. But I think if we had from the beginning, it could have been helpful, but I'm happy with how it worked even without.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Rudebach. Dr. Cragen?
I have 3 observations, guys. Number 1, the pattern of net income was very normal, predictable, not unusual at all for this kind of market. That curve was very reasonable. Also, the recession was reasonable, and you have to expect those kinds of things to happen. Second point is, I wondered whether you did pro formas each year, where you looked ahead a couple of years and said, this is what we're expecting to hit, and then compared your actual results with that. My third observation is this: you're wrong about the emergency loans. You don't want to borrow from Big Al, ever. You want to borrow from the real market, mostly from the long-term market, not emergency loans. I'm pretty sure you didn't mean that.
A response from the team?
No, sir, I did not mean that.
Go ahead, Thomas. Yeah, no, of course, yeah, I don't think Thomas meant to say that. With Big Al especially, we were spending the whole simulation recovering from those initial loans, for sure. Definitely not ideal. As far as looking ahead to the pro formas, that was our forecasting model, was mainly how we did that. And surprisingly, once we implemented that model, is why we threw it in there, is because it was so vital to the simulation. Because if we don't have accurate numbers, we can't produce effectively. So really what's sad is, and what we truly believe is, if we would have performed better those first 2 rounds, we would have done very, very well in the simulation. But an early mistake, and we just swung for the fences with it, as I said. And so sadly, it dug us an even deeper hole than we would have if we'd have just eased in. So.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for reviewers, very constructive feedback. Let's give our Team Digsby a virtual applause. Okay, thank you so much. Next up, second place was Team Andrew. Team Andrew, you're up.
Thank you so much. I am Anna, and I'm with Team Andrews. So our company overview, you can see here from left to right, we have Tyler, who is the VP of Marketing. We have Caleb, who was the VP of production. Malou was the VP of R&D, and I was the president. And our team motto was good enough is not good enough. And I'm going to pass it off to Malou.
Yeah, as you can see our agenda here, we're going to start with our strategy results from every team member and then lessons learned and some questions. For our strategy, our team decided that we was going to focus on the minimum required of products, which was 5. In the first 3 rounds, as it's highlighted in red, we try to go by a more like by the book method in the simulations. We try to like really analyze the customer conditioning, like the industry condition reports, and like make our decision based on that. As you can see, we didn't have very well results. So we kind of like pivoted and tried to focus way more on the balanced scorecard. And as you can see highlighted in the green, that really increased our score and we became much more successful. I was in charge of R&D, and here's some of our results from R&D. The 2 bottom screenshots is from the first round and the last round, and in the table above, it's just some highlighted numbers. In the first year, we didn't really know what we were doing in the simulation. We were still trying to figure it out. So as you can see, we did not spend a lot of money on R&D, and that was really seen in our numbers, in our margins. So in the next few years, we like realized we needed to invest way more in R&D. Which would lower our cost, and it really made a difference in our margins. And we ended, as you can see highlighted in yellow, with a contribution margin of 53.9%, which was actually the highest among all the teams. So we were really proud of that. And I'm going to hand it over to Tyler.
Thank you, Malou. I was in charge of marketing, and you can see here our 5 products and how they compared. As far as accessibility goes, marketing was in charge of your forecasting as well as your pricing and how you would promote these products, as well as your sales budget, how you would get those marketed to your team. And so you can see our 5 products here compared to everybody else. And then I'll let Caleb talk more about production.
Yeah, so when it went to production, we were always able to produce more than what we had on hand there. So as you can see in the bottom right corner there, we had more units sold, but we also kept more in inventory. That way we were able to produce less the next round. And also whenever it came to plant utilization, we were always in the higher percentile of that aspect. And so now I'll pass it on to Anna.
Yeah, so when it comes to the finance, you can see that we finally broke positive in the net income between round 3 and 4, which was because of our change in strategy. We went from by the book to looking at the balanced scorecard, which eventually ended us in the last round of having our highest net income of the entire round. You can see this is a screenshot from round 1. We didn't have any profit. We weren't looking good in the financial section, but then finally in round 8, we improved. I also was in charge of the total quality management, and we scored very well in that category every single round, as you can see highlighted in red. And I'm going to pass it off to Tyler.
Thank you, Anna. Here you can see our class ranking per round. Round 1, we kind of had us a hole dug, and you can see up to round 4, we were down as much as 33 points, and we continued to increase each round until we finally hit round 8. Unfortunately, it just wasn't enough to overcome the gap that was already placed between us and Erie. And so for lessons learned, I learned that what the customer wants matters, and that trumps just about everything.
Yeah, what I learned was that know your product, know what you're selling. That way you can figure out a way to get that out in the market.
And what I learned, I just wish I would have spent more time really understanding like the industry condition report, because that would really have helped us like predict the market and known better when the market was in a recession or expansion.
I learned that it's not too late to change your business strategy.
And in conclusion, we were able to fix early problems that we did have. We also overcame an early deficit that we also did have. And we figured out that the customer is king. So what they want or need is always a priority, and that we would need to fix R&D for future if the simulation were to continue. That way we could progress even more. And so with that, we are open for questions.
All right. Thank you so much. team, I think had the best time, 5 minutes and 3 seconds. So that shows that they're very, very well prepared. We're gonna go with our reviewers, Rudebach, Cragen, and Cusick in that order.
I'd just like to ask you guys, what's one thing that if you could do it differently would have had the most effect on your final results?
Care
I
about the-
think, oh,
Sorry.
no, you go, Tyler.
I was gonna say, care about the balance scorecard earlier. Didn't realize that each decision we made gave us real-time updates on the balance scorecard. And we figured that out a little bit too late, which caused us to perform pretty poorly the first, 3 rounds.
Thank you.
Okay, Cragen?
Yeah, I don't think you performed poorly the first 3 rounds at all. I think that's normal in that industry. You're fighting with a lot of competition. You're entering into new markets. Those numbers are what you need to expect. I have a question for you. I noticed a big investment coming up in the next year, a big, what is it, $49 million investment I think you guys are getting ready to make. Is that in automation?
So,
Go ahead. I already got the last one. Go ahead.
okay. So we realized the simulation was coming to an end, and so we started selling off our capacity in order to boost our cash numbers. And so it's probably coming in the next year because we sold off a lot of our capacity, but we knew it was ending, so we sold it all off.
Good deal. Thank you so much. Very astute, Dr. Cragen. And Cusick.
One of the things you said was so important to learn was that the customer was king. And my question has to do with what tools would you use to find that out? Tools that were available to you.
So in the industry conditions report, it gave us kind of a top 4 priority list per market. So in one of the priorities, it may have been price. Another one was age. Another one was placement as to like the performance and size of that specific product. And then another one was like reliability. It was MTB something, but they ordered them as their like top 2 priorities was the highest percentage. So we could have done better matching their top 2 per se.
Okay, you answered my question. I was going to say, what would you have learned what would you have gathered from that would have helped you in the future? So thank you.
I appreciate it. Great constructive feedback. This team came a long way. They were in over the top 50 percentile, which is a goal for our class. And let's give them a virtual applause. Reaction, some kind of reaction. Thank you so much. And next, our final presenters of today. They are the 2023 spring simulations winners in the business simulation with percentile. I remember it's about 78 percentile across the country, and that is Team Erie. Team Erie, you're up.
Hey, Courtney, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning, everybody. We are Team Erie, and this is our story of the CAPSIM simulation, and it's our climb to first place. So my name is Courtney McNutt, and I am the president. Mia Modelmog is our VP of marketing. Theron Williams is our VP of production. Hunter Parsons is our VP of finance. And unfortunately, at the start of the simulation, Tyler was on our team, but he left us to join another company who became one of our biggest competitors. So our agenda for the day, I will be talking about our simulation overview. Mia will talk about our marketing strategy. Theron will talk about forecasting, and Hunter will finish us off with our finance strategy. So our strategy overall We wanted to stay competitive in all market segments, effectively release new products, maximize our profit, and all of this we wanted to do through investing in our stakeholders. We really wanted to care about our employees and what they were feeling, and we also wanted to make quality products to sell to our customers. So our simulation story, we stayed at the top for the majority of the time. So we started out, you can see we started out in 3rd place, but we moved up to 1st pretty quickly. And in our 5th round, this is the one we want to highlight, is it was the recession, but we really, we saw the recession and we wanted to take up the market share during that time. So you can see that we did really well and we had the most sales and we captured 30% of the market share during this round. And then this round, we went back into 3rd place, and that was due to us being optimistic in our forecasting, and we produced too much. So now I'm going to pass it to Mia.
Yeah, so for our marketing strategy, early on, we really wanted to be sure we invested in our sales and promotion budget. These directly affected the accessibility of our products, and it also directly affected the customer awareness of our products. We also wanted to be sure we were competitively pricing with our competitors in each segment of the market. So if you look down below in the bottom graphic, we received this every round, and we were able to forecast in the marketing segment based on the growth rate. We were also able to see kind of the price range of each segment of the market. So then above that, we have our market share graph. So kind of like what Courtney was saying, year 5 was our best year. We captured 30% of the market share, but we also kind of grew gradually to year 5 and then kind of took a little hit at the end. So for our pricing, you can see there was a big change between year 1 and year 8. Like I said, we really wanted to be competitive with everyone in the market. So we had to kind of fluctuate our prices each year to stay competitive and really increase our sales and gain the majority of the market share. So now I'm going to pass it off to Deron, and he is going to go over production.
Okay, yeah, so as you can see in year 1, we started off overproducing a lot. We had some products that we still had a lot of inventory left in. And over on year 3, if you take a look, we have some products that stocked out. They weren't really able to reach their full potential. And there we kind of cut back on our production just a little bit. And then we were also in the process of introducing one of our new products, EO. Over on year 5, we're back overproducing. We still have some products that are not, they stocked out and we're still not able to reach their full potential. So that really kind of hurt us. But overall, like Courtney was saying, that was the best year we had. And then over on year 7, we were still overproducing. We increased our capacity, and we still had a lot of inventory left on hand, which, I mean, wasn't that big of a deal, but you want to try to get rid of a little bit more than that. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to Hunter for finance.
Let's start by looking at our cumulative profit, which ended up being just under 76 million. That's over 2 times as much as the 2nd place cumulative profit. How did we get there? What did we do? We were aggressive from the beginning. We knew that's what we wanted to do from the practice rounds. We invested heavy in our company through automation, advertising, and also giving a lot to our employees. We used leverage to our advantage. We issued a lot of shares, round 1 through 5, and took on a lot of debt as well. Our finance observations, we did end up with the biggest market cap. That's your shares outstanding times your stock price. Our high contribution margin was a key to that success, as well as our high market share. And another observation was being leveraged can be scary. In round 2, our stock price got down to $1 or $2, which made financing our projects kind of difficult, but it worked out well for us. And with that being said, we'll go to our lessons learned.
My lesson learned is to pay close attention to competition.
My lesson learned is to trust your team.
My lesson learned was to build off each person in your group.
Mine was the production affects a lot of the departments in the industry.
In conclusion, Erie achieved market share, effectively used our money, and we finished in 1st place. Thank you. And now we will take questions.
Thank you so much, Team Erie. Time was excellent. 5 minutes and 35 seconds. Our reviewers will be Cragen, Cusick, and Rudabach.
Yeah, one quick point. Absolutely right. There are two parts of the market that matter supremely. The customer is almost always king, but the competitors think the same way. So you guys had the right focus there. I would challenge you with one thing. As Christian business people, you need to give yourself some answer to the question, do I want to run my whole life maximizing profits? Stop and think about that.
Very, very profound. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Cragen. Great job. Cusick.
Your presentation, the quality of your graphics and the ability to read them were excellent, and you were all very well spoken and made good points. And I really liked your take-home messages with your lessons learned. They were very clear.
Thank you so much. And Rudabach.
So congratulations, team. You guys did an awesome job. It's just finishing first is a pretty big deal. Let me just give you the entire class some brief feedback on Zoom etiquette. And that's to know that because you're on camera, people are always watching you. So Tyler, when you walk away from your screen, we see you leaving and then wonder when you come back. So if you're walking away, stop your video. Malou, I don't know who you were talking to off to your right-hand side there, or your roommate or somebody like that, but I found myself watching to see what you were doing as opposed to paying attention to what was going on. So just be aware of that kind of stuff. Just know that with cameras this close, it's way more personal than a typical boardroom presentation, it seems like. So just be aware of that. I'd encourage you to do that. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your work.
Good deal. Let's give the number one team, Team Erie, let's give them a virtual applause. Okay, good. So we're gonna wrap up. First of all, does any team member have any general comments they want to say? We want to let the students have something to say. Does anybody want to have something to say? Elijah, you're not raising your hand. You just kind of okay.
Okay. Yeah, I have a question for
Go ahead.
Cragen, actually. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Cragen, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You that question you spoke to team one was real interesting to me, as in I was hoping you would elaborate more on it. You said if do you really want to maximize your profits? Is that what you want to do for the whole life of your company? I was curious what would be some alternatives that you think might be better or superior?
You probably already know the answer to this question. I am in business and have been in business my whole life to maximize my impact for the kingdom, not can you hear?
Yes, sir.
It's getting kind of getting some feedback.
Give me just a moment.
One other thing I should point out to you guys serve a big hand for managing this in the midst of NATO. Great job.
So let's wrap it up. So first of all, let's give it a round of applause to our reviewers. I want to let's give them a virtual applause. So I just want to mention a couple of things. This is innovative, as you would say. People not doing stuff on Zoom. I know you guys don't understand it, and we're bringing industry experts. I think Ms. Cusick coming all the way from Tennessee. The other thing I want to mention is Dr. Cragen's challenges me to push. I want to thank Dr. Rudabach, because I just want everyone to know we practice, and that is very important. This is the polished from practice. So again, this will be available. I was going to share this. Of course, the class will have this. I would say share it with your friends, share it with your future employers, and also I will be giving that feedback. Also, just last minute, We believe in constructive feedback, not only from industry experts and our professors, but you guys today, I want you to evaluate your team in the caption simulation. You need to evaluate your team, and in the canvas, you need to evaluate. Quantitatively, and that is the grade. Need to be done today. You need to be honest. That is the one grade. I call it judgment day. That is the one grade that's different in groups. So overall, give yourselves a hand, and you guys run the class. Run the class. I don't want anybody to be late. All right. Again, thank you so much, and I will share this video with our reviewers later. Have a wonderful, blessed day.